Joining me now to go further into the details of yesterday's announcement on autism is virologist and immunologist Dr. Robert Malone. He is founder and president of the Malone Institute, which aims to bring back integrity to government, the biological sciences, and medicine, all very much needed. Dr. Malone, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me on, Tony. These are interesting times.
Extremely interesting times. Autism has surged nearly 400% since 2000. It affects 1 in 31 American children. Those who are kind of dismissing what the Trump administration did yesterday say that's just because we're doing better reporting. But it's not just that. Let's talk about what the president said and didn't say yesterday.
Well, it's hard for me to know where to begin, Tony, with that kind of a lead-in. What I found striking was the first words out of the president's mouth at the start of the press conference, in which he said that he had been waiting for 20 years for this moment. I believe those were his statements. And of course, Baron Trump is on the verge of turning 20 years old right now. He also referenced a meeting that he had. I had no idea that this had happened, between him and Secretary Kennedy 20 years ago. The president clearly has as a very key driver his advocacy for children's health and his strong feelings about autism. I want to quote 3 things that he said in addition. One is, I'm making these statements from me. That's his words. I talk about a lot of common sense. And this is really significant. This will be as important as any single thing I've done. The president feels very strongly about this issue, as does the secretary, and the data support him and the secretary that this is, in fact, an epidemic of disease in children, which has all the characteristics of an environmental exposure. This is not genetics. There may be a genetic component, but genetics don't change this rapidly. Now, the secretary and the president has emphasized the role of folate receptors and potential therapeutic intervention that may help some children suffering from autism and ADHD. But the whole press narrative that this comes out of left field, there's no scientific support, that flies in the face of the fact that there have been data, and those data are quite strong, that have existed in the peer-reviewed literature now for many, many years. We provided a review of some of those key studies in our posting today on Malone.news, and you can read the papers yourself and make your own judgment about that. But I'll defer to the opinion of the head of the Harvard School of Public Health, who unequivocally supports the thesis based on their work and her work, that there is a link between autism, Tylenol, and exposure and pregnancy. So this is not a wackadoodle, from left field, Donald Trump just shooting off his mouth situation. And the pushback that, well, Bobby, show us the data. Well, the data have been out there for a long time. They've been suppressed.
Well, let me ask you about that, because back when I was in office serving on the health committee, we had hearings on this issue, and the research that pointed to possible connections were dismissed. I want to ask you this question. What role has Big Pharma played in either keeping this information from being taken seriously or outright suppressing it?
So, Tony, to be honest with you, I have not seen clear evidence that pharma and the pharmaceutical industry advocacy groups are behind this. It certainly stands to reason, but I don't see the smoking gun personally at this point. I just see the outcome. There's no question that these data have been suppressed, that there's the usual methods of gaslighting and harassment and ridicule and, frankly, bullying that have been characteristic of the behavior of Big Pharma But unlike, for instance, the smoking gun letter from Bio saying they wanted to get Bobby by the end of September, I haven't seen that smoking gun having to do with Tylenol.
So what has kept this from seriously being considered? Why is it taken until now? Just have about 45 seconds left.
I think it's a great question and one that I don't know that we have the answer to. There has clearly been a campaign to suppress any information or discussion about autism and potential linkage. And in the case of Tylenol, understand that virtually all vaccines are associated with what's called reactogenicity, which includes fever. So what we have here potentially is what may be a correlation, not causation,
Right.
of people treating fever with Tylenol. And of course, if that's the case, we have generations of pediatricians that have been advocating for the use of Tylenol because all the other anti-inflammatories are even worse.
Dr. Malone, we got to leave it. We
pregnant.
got to leave it there.